Hello, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Nimasa podcast. Thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure dissecting, discussing, and analyzing topics relating to the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency Nimasa, and of course, bringing to bear various aspects and conversations within the maritime industry. I remain your host, Chukwuma Moghalu. Today, Friday, the 27th day of October 2023, will bring you another all inclusive, important, and interesting discourse bordering on the Nimasa Laboratory, Nimasa Lab. Joining us live in this Nimasa podcast studio today is Deputy Director, Marine Environment Management Department of Nimasa, and she also heads the Nimasa Lab. Please welcome Mrs. Regina Abba. You're welcome, Ma, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
I'm aware we have a Nimasa laboratory domiciled in the Marine Environment Management Department of the Nimasa at the Nimasa Resource Center. So let's hit the ball and keep the ball rolling. Straight to the questions, Ma. When was this lab commissioned? And who initiated the commissioning of this lab?
The Marine Pollution Laboratory was established way back 2014 with some equipment and reagents, and then 2018 and 2019. But in 2022, November, it was commissioned by the Secretary General of the IMO with our DG, our Director General, Dr. Bashir Jamu, and the Minister of Transport then.
Okay. And if I can recall, Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi, I guess, as the Minister of Transport at that time.
No.
Okay, then it was Engineer Jaji Sambo. Correct. Correct. Good to hear that. And it's like a succession plan where things keep moving in the industry.
Yes.
Please, can you explain to our audience what the Nimasa Laboratory is really about and what the lab seeks to fulfill? What kind of tests are carried out in this lab? And of course, how is the Nimasa Lab used in meeting and implementing the requirements of the MAPO Convention on pollution control? So just explain to our audience.
The Marine Pollution Laboratory, it was established based on the Merchant Shipping Marine Environment Management Regulation 2012.
Okay.
That's the framework
Yeah.
that it was used to be established.
Okay.
And when it came on force, what is the actual need of it?
Yes.
The need of it is to perform investigative analysis
Okay.
of components, environmental components, that will prevent, the pollution of the sea.
Okay.
That is for us to have our mandate, the departmental mandate of prevention and control of pollution, and then the agency's mandate of having safe, secure shipping and cleaner oceans.
Okay.
The laboratory carries out various tests, be it chemical or biological.
Okay.
From the chemical and the biological, we look at the conventions, as I said, Regulation 2012. The conventions that establish the lab,
Okay.
that now the lab uses to do her functions, is the marine, is the Ballast Water Management Convention, the Anti-Fouling Convention, the OPRC, that's Oil Pollution Preparedness Response and Cooperation, the wreck remover, the ship recycling, the MAPOL, which is the main Bible. And this MAPOL has 6 annexes.
Okay.
These annexes, we have the one that takes care of the oil, the one for chemical, the one for noxious substances, then garbage, sewage, and then the air pollution. So each of them have various components that the lab watches out for. We take, for instance, now an oil pollution. If there is an oil spill, now we want to know, and remember they are from ships.
Yeah.
We now want to know which particular ship has spilled this oil.
Okay.
There is what we call fingerprinting. So we'll use the fingerprinting analysis to identify the particular oil that have polluted. Why? Because each oil has its own characteristics. Just like how human being, we have our DNA and all that. It has its own characteristics. So based on the characteristics that will be discovered in the analysis, it will now tell us which of the oils that now has that, and then we can now use it to carry out what we call the polluter pays principle. Okay. What is polluter pays principle? That is, the polluter has to pay for the containment of that spill.
Okay.
Yes, so that's part of what the lab is there for. And then also in ballast water, because of the invasives that come with the ballast water on vessels, this lab will carry out analysis on this ballast water to know the invasive that are there and compare them to international standard of the allowable quantity. And then based on that, we will now know if it is safe for discharge or not. Even though now we are moving to D2, where there will be treatment systems on board for those ballast water to be treated before they will be discharged. Even at them, we still need to carry the analysis before it will be discharged in our own waters. Like that. And then we also have antifouling, antifouling paints. There is what we call organotin. Its presence in paints is dangerous to the human life, the marine life, where we are now talking about the blue economy. So to avoid that, there are tests that are carried out to know that the particular allowable quantity of organotin in the paints, and then these organisms that stick to the hull of the vessel. So also that the organotin is actually to prevent them from. But now we look at the convention looks at how you have friendly, environmental friendly chemicals that can be used on the hull of the vessel to avoid those to avoid the organotin leaching into the ocean. Yeah. So these are some of the ways that the lab comes in, and then in, of course, routine day-to-day activities where we go to see the water, to monitor the water quality in our environment, so that we'll use them. The results we get, we compare them with international standard, and then to know if our waters are free from pollution. And then we also create a database where we can use to know, today is good. Documentation. Next tomorrow, if it's not good, we now know where it's coming from and all that like that. So we know how to mitigate such activity.
Okay. So having said that, with a lot of explanations you gave right now, it shows that to have a successful, should I say, to go about your duties successfully well, your role requires a lot of collaboration. So I would like to know, within the industry, within the space, within the players, did you get a lot of collaborations?
Yes, we have a lot of collaboration. One with the various divisions in the department, because different divisions have their different activities, and the lab has role to play in each of them. So we have collaborations with them from there. Then we also have collaboration with other sister organizations. We have with NIOMA. We have with Lagos, University of Lagos, their laboratory, and then other stakeholders.
Okay, yes, perfect. If I may ask, this Nimasa lab, is it open to the general public or just to maritime players? And if yes, if it's actually opened to these people, what are the requirements there to access this lab?
It's open to everyone. It's open to the stakeholders, that have their samples that they want to analyze. It's open to them. We are trying to fix our tariff on the prices for each of the samples. How much each one will cost and all that like that. So if they have any analysis they want us to run for them in the environment, okay, they will contact Nimasa, the lab, and then we'll collect their samples. We have to be part of the team that will collect the samples so that we'll know, because your result, the efficiency of your result starts from the collection of the sample, so that the samples will be well collected, properly preserved, and then analysis run on them, and then result also compared with international standards. Yes.
Perfect. So having said this, I believe that in this kind of system, growth is essential. So what has it been? What has growth process been like? And what is this regime presently, the administration being head by the Dr. Jamo-led team? What are they doing differently to ensure that there's growth and consistency in the Nimasa lab, if I may say?
Yes, in fact, this administration has given the lab, a voice. It has given us a voice, wings to fly, and we are very grateful. In fact, yesterday we received one of our wonderful equipment, and we are so grateful for that. And then, when the commissioning was coming, and he included the lab in that commissioning, that gave us a serious push.
Drive.
And we used that opportunity to showcase the lab.
Yeah, correct.
And we are happy that the lab is moving.
It's
growing.
I like that. And I like the fact that it's a continuous process, like I said. And the Jamo-led administration is doing everything it could to ensure that the process continues and to ensure that there's development and growth in the Nimasa lab. Okay, if I've said that, like you mentioned, that you received a new equipment yesterday, and these equipments are equipments that further enhance the processes you conduct your test and all of that in the lab. Having said that, before we draw the curtain on today's episode, let's have like a simulation process. Let's assume there's a spill, and your department is called upon to handle this spillage and probably carry out tests and all of that. What are the processes? What are the steps involved? How do you go about it?
In such situation now, the various divisions of the department have different roles to play. We now have the division in charge of OPRC, and then we now have the lab.
Okay.
So everyone now, we get up in collaboration together. We'll move as a team. Safety along, safety department along. We'll move as a team. Everyone doing his work. Lab will now collect her sample. Collect her sample, come and run tests and see what components are in the oil. The appropriate containment processes. That is what will now be used. Is it absorbent? What type that can be used to quickly mop up the oil? And then, of course, it depends on the tier of the spill. Is it a first tier? Is it a second tier? Is it a third tier? And all that. So, but in
that's
all,
like in levels.
Yes, in levels. Yes. So, but in all that, these are the practical process. Yes. OPRC, they will now do the booming and all that on the containment.
Okay. So having said that, what would be your word of should I say advice, or what would you say? What should you tell industry players about this lab? How would you encourage them to make use of this lab, to come close and know what the lab is all about in case there's an oil spill anywhere in the country or within the region? How would you bring these people closer to know that it's a lab that is accessible and functional to use?
I will encourage my colleagues, first of all, Nimasa staff, wherever they are in the environment and they see anything that is detrimental to the environment, call the lab. And also, we are expecting our mobile lab, which is a boat.
Oh, perfect.
It's a boat.
Perfect.
We are expecting that. With that also, we can move
anywhere
in various ways, yes,
anywhere.
and whatever like that. And then the lab is your friend. So come and visit the lab.
Correct. Does the lab have like a call center, like a call phone, or is it accessible on?
Yes, the department call number. Yes, they
okay, perfect.
They can use that to call.
Hopefully, over time, we'll get this number and be able to share it with our guests, to share it with our viewers, to share it with maritime stakeholders and maritime players, so that when there's a case of any spillage, you can always communicate and contact the Marine Environment Management Department to handle the spillage wherever it is. And like Mrs. Regina Abba said, she mentioned about the department being expectant of a mobile testing lab, which will come in form of a vessel, in form of a boat, if I got her right, that will be accessible to every region. And if there's an oil spill, the boat can, take off and get to that place in record time. Okay, it's good to know that, and it's good to know that there's a lot of development within the industry. Few years ago, all these things and all these new innovations were not there. So these are processes and things that even make the job enjoyable, makes it more easy, to carry out your duties as the head of the Nimasa laboratory. Having said that, we would like to know a little bit more on the lab. We'll just ask one more question before we end this session for today, and that question will border around the functionality of the lab since inception of when the lab came into play. How often do you get to make use of your equipment? How often do you need to go into the processes of actually going testing this spillages and all of that, samples? How often does the lab come into use?
Yeah, the one of spillage is when there is a spill.
Okay.
And normally we pray that there should be no spill, because no matter how you clean the environment, you cannot get it 100%.
There's always residues left.
Yes, and so we don't even want any spill. But in event of any spill, then the action will take place. And then in ballast, if there is discharge of ballast and in the waters, enforcement officers go on board and they see anything like that, they will call and will collect samples to run the test. And then also in the routine activities, we carry out our routine activity, as I say, for testing of the water quality in our waters, to know, especially in the ports, in the terminals, to see that the water there is clean and clear. So we carry out such tests very regular.
So talking about this test, how often are these tests conducted?
Yes, sometimes twice in a month. Yes. And then also depending on what we see as we move about, also maybe coming to work and all that, and you see anywhere that the water is too dark or whatever, we go, because we have some of the equipment you can just dip into the water, and then samples. That's the Aqua Pro water quality sample, and it will run down some parameters for you that you get, the pH, the BOD and all that. So based on that, you can now interpret on the spot of assessment, yes, of what you have seen. Yes.
Okay. Having said that, before we forget this very important aspect of it, in order to carry all this test out and efficiently run your duties, there are human beings doing this.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about training of your officers. How are your officers trained? How adequate are the officers in your department trained enough to carry out this test whenever it happens?
Yes, we have training and retraining on every equipment that comes. There is training for each one. So with our SOP, we carry out our activities, and then every equipment that comes with training along. Like the one that have come yesterday. Now, this spectrophotometer that have come, it has a training with it. So by the time it's been set up, the training will take place on that particular equipment for certification. So we have training and retraining of staff on the equipment for certification.
Okay, so this equipment you talked about now,
Photometer, yes.
What actually is the use of that equipment? What's the core function of the
Yes,
equipment?
it's for us to dictate, the organic and the inorganic parameters.
Okay.
So it also has different components.
Okay.
So it will give us different, a range. When you run it once, it will give you different range of, you now know the if it's oil now, you know the hydrocarbons that are there, you know their classes. Is it a methane, is it ethane, you will know all the classes. And so based on the classes, you know their characteristics, what it can do in the environment and all that. So it gives you, there is an indication to the level of pollution outside and the appropriate measure of what should be taken to curtail it.
Okay.
Yes.
So having said that, viewers, you have heard clearly about the Nimasa laboratory, the things the lab does, how to access the lab, some equipment in the lab, how staff is even trained in the department that runs the lab. So I believe we've been brought abreast to information concerning the lab, and we want to take our time to thank you very much, Ma, for making out this great time to visit the Nimasa podcast studio. On the last note, would there be any advice? Because as you can see, this new innovation, which is a brainchild of our head, Mr. Edward Osage, the head PR, and of course with the full support of the executive management led by Dr. Jamo Bashir, OFR. What would be your word of encouragement for us?
Yeah, I think Dr. Jamo is touching places.
Yes.
Touching places in the entire Nimasa departments. And so this is what he has touched here, just like how I just sang the way he has touched the lab and marine environment management for as a large one. But now in the PR, he has brought a new innovation. And now in the comforts of our home, we'll be able to know the various departments, their activities. And then when, of course, the exam is coming, you are not afraid.
It's much easier.
Like how you run to, ma'am, what are people doing? Safety, what are you doing? But now you just go back to your YouTube, bring them out, and you are good to go.
Yeah.
And it's just for them to get the space now to put everybody, because everybody will pass their exams.
So subsequently, thank you for telling us that, and it's a very good word of encouragement for us to do more, and hopefully we'll get to cut across to other departments and other aspects of Nimasa. Thank you very much, Ma, for coming. So viewers, that will be all for today. You can watch this program again on our YouTube channel at Nimasa Official, and don't forget to subscribe to all our social media platforms at Nimasa Official. See you next time right here on Nimasa Podcast, and enjoy your weekend. Bye for now.